Let's talk HC. Let's talk Florida State. Let's talk Louisville. Let's talk the game. Uh, this was Brock Glenn. He might be a good quarterback in a couple of years. He was not ready for this moment, right? First start as a true freshman. It's in the ACC championship game. But look, that defense just got it done, man. I mean, it's Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, some dudes, and also Jack Plummer. I mean, look, Jack Plummer. We talked about it, right? I've talked about this explicitly. I know you share some agreement in this, but like Jack Plummer is just he's the most average quarterback you could possibly think of. And the problem is when you play an elite defense and you're an average quarterback, you look like a below average quarterback. That's what he was
He's
today.
about as college quarterback gets.
Yeah.
Right. He's been there for 5-6 years. He's on his third team now. He knows every offense. He's seen every defense, and yet still continues to make mistakes, continues to do the same thing over and over again. The
In
thing is like
just brutal situations.
the thing is
Brutal.
to be honest, I credit Jeff Brom here. I don't obviously it didn't turn out like he wanted to, but like to go 10-2 and like you fooled me. Like yes, Jack Plummer had a bad game. I'm not gonna like trash the guy and his whole career for one bad game in the biggest game of his career. Whatever. Like you played a team better than you, a defense that's really good and playing around, and like you lost. Like you didn't play well, fine. But like they found like really creative ways. And I should have known. I picked Louisville, but I didn't like pick up on all year that like they didn't hide Jack Plummer, right? But like they played into their strengths, which was their defense and their running game. And like to me, I assumed with Jeff Brom, they were going to throw the ball over the yard, and like Plummer and Thrash and Coleman, all these guys were going to go off all year. And while like Thrash put up good numbers and Jack Plummer was good at times, like this was about running game and defense. And to be honest, like Florida State without Jordan Travis, without under their third string quarterback, like they were the same thing where they'd run the ball and play good defense, and like they're just more talented than you, and like they played discipline, right? They capitalize on your turnovers and whatnot, and like they made some big plays. At times they responded well, like Toa Feely had that big run after you went down and kicked a field goal to tie it,
He
and
was
then
the
right
game
away,
MVP.
boom.
It's pretty wild. I mean, like if you were asking me going into this, I would have said, well, Florida State wins probably Trey Benson or defensive player. But
Tion Coleman.
Toe Feely. I mean, have a day. Have a day, kid.
Yeah, yeah. It was a tough. It was it was. I thought it was good football, like defensively and like really entertaining. Like it was actually a close game. The thing is, like in these games, and like as a Big Ten West fan, like I understand this. Like when it like was up to like what was it at 3 or it was at 10, right? It was at 10 and it was back down to 1 or whatever it was. Like those leads like just feel so big, even though it's literally one score. It just feels so big that like so much has to go right for you to get back in the game. And Louisville just had chance after chance after chance after chance to tie the game, take the lead, right? They had that turnover, and then they had the short field, and then boom.
Yeah, like the blocked
Yeah,
punt. Well,
it's
they
tough.
just tackled the punter because the punter they got after him. Whatever that shift, I don't know what that special teams coordinator was doing for Florida State. Odd shift. Louisville said, "Bet we're coming after it," and they got them. And then of course Jack Plummer, after an unbelievable play by the way by that cornerback to rip that ball out on that corner route, uh, or sorry on that fade route. Thought he might have had a pick right there. Wasn't out of bounds. But the ball does not lie and finds him again on like the next play. So, but that was also just Jack Plummer straight to the numbers in between 1 and 5. Just pretty brutal.
Can't do
And look,
that.
and we'll talk more college football playoffs later. But Florida State, of course, getting left out after this game. College football playoff committee obviously saw that and we're like, all right, we don't want to watch Michigan, Iowa again.
Oh my god. Chill. Too
No,
soon,
no,
man.
no, no, no. Here's the thing. I don't agree with that sentiment necessarily because I think Tate Rodemaker is a fine quarterback. I
Mm-hmm.
think if he did not get hurt I think if he played this game, I think they look better. I think they're actually in the playoffs. 2 quarterback injuries. Leaves Florida State left out, going to the Rose Bowl, or sorry, not the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl down there in Sunshine State, where they're really familiar with. They're familiar with that stadium that they'll be playing in. Just what's the vibe of Florida State right now? Like, I mean, we talked it a little bit when we talked about Georgia, but I mean, what are these practices going to look like? What is this? What are these recruits thinking? You know, what is this? I don't know. Like, well, what's the vibe around this program right now?
You have to be frustrated and pissed off. Now, like I think the crazy part is you went 13-0. Like this was a wildly successful year. Like I get it. Like there were high expectations coming into the year, but nobody really gave him a chance to be a national championship contender. Right. We saw playoffs. Like if things broke right, if they beat LSU, if they had some certain other conferences lose or down years by their conference champions, then maybe they can sneak in. The thing is you ran a table and you believe you beat two SEC teams, right? As well in your out of conference slate, you have to be frustrated. And obviously, like you hate to see it happen because of an injury. Like that, like let's be blunt here. Like if Jordan Travis is playing this game, they beat Florida by a substantially more amount, and they obviously handle Louisville as well. And they're sitting here and they're probably playing, Washington in the Sugar Bowl or whatever it would have to be. It sucks. It really, really sucks. And the thing is like, yeah, what do you do going forward? To me, I hope it settles, and I hope like they figure like they just go like, okay, like it's not our year or whatever. Like we probably weren't gonna win it all. Like the thing is, I heard the thing about talking about like this is that next push, maybe that push over the ledge to leaving the ACC, which they've wanted to do for a while. Fans, coaches, and
Yeah,
that to me scares me. That's why I was frustrated. Where I was like, for the good of college football, the future of college football, right, in the sanctity of our conferences, just put Florida State in. Like the SEC will be fine. Bama will recover. Georgia won't be too bad. Like Ohio State's not in it, fine. Like Florida State and the ACC needed this, and the ACC more specifically needed this. And yeah, it's really really brutal. And the thing is, like, what if it was like, what if Clemson was like good this year? Like again, like you're never rooting for Clemson if you're a Florida State fan, but at the same time, like you're pretty bummed out that they went 8-4, even though like it was probably about as impressive at 8-4 as you could have, or like maybe it's one of the better 8-4 teams in the country. But yeah, you have to be upset and like deservingly so. Like someone's gonna be left out. Like we talked about, like having a 5-team playoff, a 4-team playoff with 5 power conferences just was bound to happen. I'm surprised this didn't happen earlier. A lot of times we were arguing 4 versus 5, and none of those teams deserve to actually be in. This year you had 5 legit candidates. Someone's going to be upset. The fans, the money, whatever, that'll come back. They'll be fine. I feel bad for those players, right? That locker room video or that video of that meeting room, it's tough to watch. Tough to watch. You have to feel bad for these guys that put on their life on their line, come to Florida State to fulfill a dream, do everything that you thought do everything that we asked them to do to make the college football playoff, and then it just gets ripped from them because of an injury.
yeah. It stinks because this is probably the perfect year to have a 16 playoff. And look, I'm under the belief, right? I don't love playoff expansion. It's not my favorite thing. I understand both sides because I understand the argument that doesn't like it because they're like, let's devalue those games, right? But then the playoff expansions are like, well, you devalue those games, but you also increase the value of these other games. I don't know. I think the 12 teams playoff devalues conference championships as well as regular season games. I think a 16 playoff. I think 16 playoff is better than 14 playoff. You know, if you are going to
It's not
expand,
crazy.
I think 6 is a really good number. You get all the power conferences in there, plus essentially an at large, I guess. And
Well,
then
it wouldn't even have to be like that way. It could just be
no, yeah, but I'm saying in this specific
like
year, right?
hypothetically in this kind of year. Yeah.
Yeah, in this kind of year, right? You have the 5 power conference champions, and then your 6 is Georgia, and then like honestly, all the 6 of those teams I think deserve to get in and are also really really good teams. And sure, you leave out Ohio State and Oregon, but in a year, but that's just one of those years. You had a lot of good teams at the top and a lot of good resumes. So I like the 6 personally because of the number of conferences that are quote unquote power conferences in our sport. Now, going forward, ironically, because the Pac-12 doesn't exist, it almost feels like a 14 playoff.
Yo,
It's fine. Of course,
God damn it,
of
man.
course, the year when we don't have the 14 playoff is the year we're moving out of it, or the year that we don't have 5 power conferences, we have 4 is the year we're moving out of the 14 playoff, which I think is quite ironic. But I don't know if you're in the comments, you're listening to this video, you probably want to hear more about this game. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on playoff expansion. I like hearing other people's like the fan perspective is I think the perspective that is most important aside from the players, right? That is the perspective I think is the most important aside from the players, right? Uh, but these media companies, apparently their
That's
opinion
who makes
matters
the
the
decision.
most. Their opinion matters the most. So I don't know, man.